today's and tomorrow's smart economy. And let me tell you sort of what I plan to delve into. Two things, developers and standards. Now, I come from an enterprise background. I spent close to 2 decades at Microsoft building tools and platforms. And I firmly believe, it is my conviction, there are two things holding us back as an industry, holding us back from scaling broadly into the mainstream. And the first thing is developer focus. I believe that many of us have been very much siloed in terms of the tools, in terms of the approaches, and certainly in terms of what I would call the fiefdoms we have built. The second area that is significantly holding us back is a lack of, or to be more polite, emerging set of standards, which poses significant challenges for us, as platforms, as chains, to be able to create some level of interoperability, integration, and so on. So two things, developers and standards. So firstly, on developers, there are about 21 million plus developers worldwide. And when I talk to folks in the industry, I ask them, give me a guess. How many developers out there building smart contracts? Forget about the chains, just generally building smart contracts. And I get responses anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000, some say 100,000. The key point is this, when we look at 21 million developers, and even if we had, let's say, 200,000 developers building smart contracts, it's a drop in the ocean. It's not even close. The second thing I want to call out in this context is, so the most popular developer toolset out there globally is VSCode. And on the average, about 6, maybe even 7 million developers are building, actively building daily, weekly, every month on this toolset, building production quality apps and services. And so we've taken this approach where we said, look, for us to take this truly to the mainstream, it is developers, 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 and very closely followed by standards, standards, standards. The era of closed, set of fiefdoms with our own approaches, techniques, frameworks, even languages, and so on, is passé. It's over. It's done. We believe in this mission. I believe in this mission. We are making a difference. We are disrupting the world from a social, from an economic, and certainly from a technology perspective. But to do it right, we have to get those millions of developers. And secondly, to do it right, we have to build on a set of standards. So I'm going to give you a couple of demos. These are new tools, but the demos should be fairly self-explaining to you as you're watching and listening. The first one is what we call the Neo Toolkit for Microsoft.NET. And again, piggybacking, on the 6-7 million developers who are using VS Code toolset. Let me jump over, give you a couple of quick, I think I have this in here somewhere. Let's go back here. Okay, there we go. So I'm right now on the VS Code marketplace, and if you go in and type in blockchain, you see the usual suspects. You see the big guys, you see IBM, you see Microsoft, and that's where we have our blockchain toolkit as well as the visual dev tracker. I will not spend much time on this particular page, but I would certainly recommend, we have a quick start here. So at your leisure, go take a peek, build on this, give it a go, give me feedback, John Devadoss on Twitter. But right now, what I want to do is to give you a quick demo. So I'm running Windows, however, I have Ubuntu set up on this machine, and I'm going to run VS Code from my Ubuntu instance here. There we go. You should be able to shortly again. Okay. I have a very simple app here. It's essentially think of it as like a domain registry app. Nothing very sophisticated, nothing very fancy. And what I'm going to do is, let me go back to my slide here, is to talk about the developer experience. One of the things, even up to as of a year ago, right, debugging smart contracts in general across the industry has been and was a significant nightmare. I still remember doing printfs and log statements and figuring out how the heck do I go in and understand, what is actually happening in the logic, in the code behind the smart contract. And so late last year, we shipped a debugging experience that was on par with being able to debug, let's say, an AWS Lambda function, or a Windows Microsoft Azure function as well on the Azure platform. And so this month, we're able to raise the bar. And this is something that's called time travel debugging. We talk about debugging smart contracts, but wouldn't it be wonderful if you could go back in time and fix a code issue? So time travel debugging, also called trace debugging, is a technique that was pioneered by Microsoft about 3-4 years ago, I believe, on the kernel to help kernel developers be able to debug often insidious bugs, sometimes which are caused by state changes. You're debugging a smart contract, you are reading some data off the chain, and the data is incorrect. Now, many times it's incorrect not because of the code in your smart contract, but possibly because of the code in an earlier, set of smart contracts that were working or operating on the data. So Microsoft pioneered this technique, and we are bringing this at the source code level to the blockchain industry. So let me go back in here. Again, like I said, fairly simple domain name function. You can see in this case, I can debug. Let me go in and say I can start debugging. The usual suspects, obviously, you can see step over, step into, step out, and a step back. And this is something thus far, as an industry in terms of enabling developers, so we have not done a good job at large. And so we aim to fix this. Let me show you how. So I'm going to step in, fairly simple, so far so good. It's straight C#, by the way. This is a C# sample smart contract. I go in. We're going to say, okay, let's go register. Let's step into the register function. And there we go. Fairly straightforward. I'm doing a couple of checks. But hang on. Now, what if I could step back? What will happen? I step back. So far, so good. I'm still in the same function. If I go back a little bit more, there you go. Boom. So being able to step back and forward in time via trace debugging or time travel debugging is an example I want to discuss today at Blockconf as one of the scenarios, the developer use cases that are critical for us to take our mission mainstream, that is imperative for us as an industry to disrupt, to create value at a global scale. We will not be successful by playing in our own little boxes with 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 developers. There are 21 million developers, and that's what we as an industry have to realize in terms of our aspirations as well as our ambitions. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on this particular demo. Like I said, you can go to the VSCode marketplace, you can download the toolkit, play with it. And again, always looking for feedback. So any feedback, good, bad, things you can see you would like us to improve, or just as you play with the tools, if there is something that surprises you in a good way or not, ping me. I am on Twitter, John_Devadoss, as well as LinkedIn, and always happy to get feedback, to discuss, to have dialogue. So first thing, developers, again, critical imperative for us as an industry to drive, and I gave you the demo of. The second piece I want to spend a few minutes on is standards. I spent close to 2 decades building. I led the architecture work for the .NET platform at Microsoft for version 1 and version 2. And one key takeaway for me, especially in the platform space, is standards. We need standards. You know, there is this oft said phrase about building on the shoulders of giants. And that is so true with respect to tools, platforms, and developers. And again, I believe thus far, as an industry, we have not done a good job. So something I want to share, I want to give you a quick demo. And again, I will not spend too long on this, is what we call the Visual Token Designer. Essentially a visual tool set, once again, built on the VSCode, Microsoft's tooling platform. This is work in collaboration with the Azure blockchain team at Microsoft, as well as the Token Taxonomy Framework organization, which is the standards body, which is evangelizing and establishing the token taxonomy standards. Microsoft pioneered this approach, and we are building the developer experience to make it real. So I'll give you a quick demo. Let me switch over. In this case, I'm actually running the tool set on my Windows machine. I will not go to the Ubuntu VM. So what you see here is a fairly common dev experience. There is nothing unusual, nothing extraordinary, which is the whole idea. For us to attract developers, we have to go to where they are. If we build something different, something unusual, and we say, come to us, it's going to be a very, very slow progress to adoption. And so we've taken, building on the Microsoft toolset, building on the accepted design principles with respect to the developer experience. So over here, you can see, I'll just give you a couple of quick looks. This is a few token formulae. These are all completely based on the Token Taxonomy Framework standards. What we have done is to provide a visual surface, is to provide the tooling to be able to design, to architect, to visualize, and eventually to instantiate via code generation, onto the Neo platform, and certainly any other platform as well. Because remember, this is about standards. This tool set is built on standards. So if you want to visualize, design, architect, and eventually code gen to chain X or Y or Z, you can absolutely do that. So there's a couple of formula here. This is basically the visual description of the formula, and down below you see the specific, the mathematical depiction. Again, I will not spend too much time, but if you have a chance, please go use your preferred search engine to look up the Token Taxonomy Framework. Go to GitHub, look at the TTF standard definitions for tokens, for token templates, as well as token template hierarchies, and it'll give you a good feel. Let me jump into an example here. So let's go take a look, for example, at a piece of art. So let's say you want to build a D app to be able to tokenize art. Today, what you do? Well, you can go about figure out which chain, which standard, or so-called standard. In this case, we have the token template definition for a piece of digital art. So what does it mean? Now, obviously, this is a singleton, right? There is only one painting or one piece of artwork by the artist. So being able to say, look, when we define this token template, it is a singleton token. Another one is, you really can't take a piece of art and divide it up, right? A painting is a painting, right? And so being able to say, look, this is not divisible. More interesting is, of course, art is transferable. If I were to be the artist painting something and I tokenize this piece of digital art, I could transfer it to Juan or Alina or somebody else. And so having the behavior definition, having the attributes to enable this, all built on a fabric of standards, we believe, I strongly believe, is a significant step in the direction we have to go as an industry to go mainstream. Another example, so let's look at Blockconf is a global event. I know my friend Juan is based in Argentina. Soccer is very popular in Argentina. So this is an example where I've taken the Euro 2020 ticket, and essentially I have built a token template definition for a ticket for the soccer tournament. Let's take a look at it. Of course, in the lower right, you have the formula definition. And again, this is a fairly short presentation. I will not go into detail, but you can certainly look up token taxonomy framework and get more details. So first of all, a ticket for a soccer tournament is a non-fungible token. Makes sense, right? Obviously. More interesting, there is supply control. Now, what does it mean? There are only so many tickets you can obviously sell for a certain match, right? It is not unlimited. And so this notion of having a behavior that is called supply control is a critical piece. And obviously, again, a ticket is indivisible. I can't take a ticket, whether it's for a soccer match or a hockey or American football. It is a unit as it is. Of course, it is transferable, because if I were to purchase a ticket for the Euro, I could transfer and give it to my friend or my colleague, and possibly in return for some other transfer back to compensate. And the last thing is interesting. So unlike the piece of art earlier, right, you could actually delegate. You could say, look, I have a ticket, and I could delegate this and say somebody else will actually attend the match or the game on my behalf, rather than me stepping in, right? So let's look at another example here. I think I have a diploma, a license. Diploma is like a degree. It could be a license. It could be a license to practice. It could be a degree that says that you've passed high school or whatever, right? So again, very quickly. So obviously, a diploma is a singleton, right? When I have a diploma, there is only one instance of it. Again, it's indivisible. It's non-transferable. So unlike the previous scenario of the ticket for a soccer match, a diploma or a license cannot be transferred for obvious reasons, right? So this is an interesting new behavior, once again, as we compose these template definitions. And more interesting, a diploma is something you would say is attestable, meaning somebody out there is going to certify the diploma or the license, which again makes sense. That's the whole idea. The whole idea of a license is there is the certifying authority. The whole idea, of a degree or a diploma is, again, there is possibly a university or a system of universities that will attest to the fact that this individual has obviously undergone this program, and so on and so forth. So again, step back. Key here is standards. When we say token, oftentimes people think ICO, which is true, which is where for the last few years there has been significant interest and momentum. But token is the foundational piece of this new economy we are building. You call it the token economy or the smart economy, right? And so being able to have very clear fabric, the building blocks based on interoperability, based on integration, is absolutely critical. This is how every other wave of technology, whether it be the cloud or SOA, or you go back to the PC waves, right? It is all built on the shoulders of giants. So I'm hoping this session will give you a flavor for the token taxonomy standards work that we, along with Microsoft and other big companies, are working to establish, but also give you a perspective into what a tooling experience might look like to design, to architect, to visualize, and again, most importantly, to do the code gen. In the interest of time, I will not show you the code gen here, but being able to push a button and create the token definitions, as well as the smart contracts in C# or Python or Go or Rust, whichever language you like, and then push it to deploy onto the private net or the test net, and of course the main net for in this case for the Neo platform or any other chain set or platform that you may want to use. So let me switch back here. So I'll give you a quick demo of the visual token design. So in closing, I believe in this mission. I believe we're all here at Blockconf because we believe in this mission. It's time to raise the bar. We have to go drive this disruptive change at scale. And this means, again, do not live within your sandbox. There are millions and millions of developers out there, and we need to go to where they are. Give them the developer experience that they understand, they know, and they're familiar with, friction-free. The second thing is it behooves us as platform vendors, as tools developers, and just as the community to push, to raise the bar and say, guys, look, it is time to focus on integration, on interoperability, to build on a fabric of standards, enough with the experimentation. This is the right time. And I believe the next 12, 18 months will see a tremendous wave of innovation with respect to standards, which once again will make life easier for the developers out there to build, whether you're in the consumer space or in the commercial enterprise space. It doesn't matter. So with that, I want to pause. Thank you again to the team for giving me this opportunity. Truly a privilege and a pleasure to be here. I hope I was able to add some value here, give you a couple of ideas and some thoughts, as well as demonstrate tooling support, saying this is real. It's not just PowerPoint BS out there. So it's real stuff that we and other folks are building and working on. So once again, would love to hear from you. Questions, comments, feedback, good, bad, ugly. John_Devadoss on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So please, I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again and have a very good conference. Back to you, Juan. I believe there may be some questions. I'm going to just be on Zoom. Let me go to the chat window if we can. I will also type in my Twitter ID here. So feel free to ping me at your leisure with any questions you may have. Not sure if one can hear me. Well, we are waiting. Let me once again share the screen, tell you where you can find the toolset. Yep. So like I said, back on the VSCode marketplace, and just go type in blockchain, and bingo, there you go. Usual suspects, and of course we are here. The toolset runs obviously on Windows, Mac, as well as Linux, Ubuntu. I recommend Ubuntu, and certainly go take a look at the quick start as well to give you a flow and a flavor as well in terms of building a simple smart contract. Again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to walk you through every single step here. That would be a waste of your time, but I will get the link on the Zoom as well. Okay, there we go. I will send the link here as well. I think that about concludes my time. We're almost to the hour on the clock. So again, I want to thank all of you for listening in and watching in. It's been a wonderful event thus far. Certainly, I've enjoyed it. I hope you've been enjoying it as well, and that I was able to give you a couple of ideas to think, to discuss, and hopefully make it a fun event. So once again, thank you, folks, and please do ping me. Always happy to listen, to get your feedback. So thanks again, and take care. Okay, bye bye.